to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Guardian, and Coast Guardsman, each of us commits our very life to protect and defend that document, regardless of personal price.
Democrats have been talking for months now about the state of Donald Trump's cognitive decline, how he is more deranged than ever, more dangerous than ever, and more unfit to be president than ever. But it's not up until this week that the mainstream media has actually started to cover Donald Trump's cognitive decline. They finally decided they would do their job as journalists and begin talking about how he is canceling events, canceling interviews, and how his staff is saying that he is exhausted. He can't even do the job as candidate. How could he do the job of president? But now it's not just the mainstream media who's talking about it. Republicans are as well, and they are panicked. And the most panicked of those Republicans, and one of the worst Trump stooges, Lindsey Graham, decided he would go on Fox News last night. And you can see just the scared expression on his face as spit is flying out of his mouth as he desperately pleads with the Fox audience to help this spiraling Trump campaign, and really the entire GOP that is a sinking ship. Lindsey Graham went on Fox and dropped a truth bomb on Donald Trump that is having him in the rest of the MAGA movement spiral, and we are going to get into that before we do. If I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button and join the community that we are building on this channel. I am really excited about what we are building, and with your help it's going to continue to be incredible. Now let's get into some of this crazed interview with Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, so the last person in the room with Biden before he withdrew from Afghanistan was Harris. She supported the decision to withdraw. Her position and Biden's position about how to fight a group of people who want to kill your family has been proven to be wrong. She tried to deter Russia invasion of Ukraine 4 days before they invaded. So in 18 days, she's going to be commander-in-chief or Trump's going to be commander-in-chief. If she's commander-in-chief, the Arab world will not unite with the West and recognize Israel because they don't trust her, and Iran's not afraid. So this is the most important decision we'll make on multiple fronts. I think Donald Trump would be the best commander-in-chief of anybody available on the planet based on his performance before.
Now, before we get into the shocking bomb that Lindsey Graham dropped on Donald Trump, I wanted to start with him saying that in this clip, because really, Lindsey, Donald Trump is the person who is most fit and most equipped to be commander-in-chief. Is it not the case that all of his national security advisors, so many of the military officials who worked under him, are talking about the threat he is not to just us domestically, not to just our democracy, but to the world more broadly? How he is someone who cannot be trusted with the nuclear codes, how he would start wars, how he is erratic and general. Mark Milley, the head of Donald Trump's Joint Chiefs of Staff, is coming out and saying that exactly a new reporting from Bob Woodward, we are hearing just how scared military officials are of a possible second Trump term, and just this reporting. Now, before we get into more of Lindsey Graham, I want to check out what General Mark Milley had to say about Trump just a little bit ago.
To a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual.
It couldn't be more clear that Donald Trump is a dangerous threat to our democracy and to our globe. And that is why it is so impactful to hear national security advisors and former military members come out and talk about the threat that Donald Trump is to the world stage, because they are especially concerned that someone so erratic and someone so out of it, and someone who is clearly willing to sell us out to Putin, someone who has spoken to Putin at least 7 times times since leaving the White House could be back in the Oval Office that absolutely terrifies them. And that is not the only institution that is scared of Donald Trump. We should also be scared about what Donald Trump would do with the Supreme Court if he was elected, which is what Lindsey Graham said in this clip right here.
What about the Supreme Court? If he's President of the United States with a Republican Senate, we can have a generation of conservatives on the Supreme Court. This is a very big deal to shape the court for the next generation. It's a very big deal to get the commander-in-chief.
So obviously, Lindsey Graham thinks that's a positive call to action for his movement, a reminder that the Supreme Court is at stake in this election. But I know a majority of Americans are more than just dissatisfied with this incredibly conservative, incredibly biased, and incredibly corrupt Supreme Court. So thank you, Lindsey, for the reminder of what is at stake in that VP. Harris could appoint 2 liberal justices in 4 or hopefully 8 years in the White House. So we appreciate that reminder. Now, earlier, I said that Lindsey dropped a bit of a bomb on Donald Trump and the entire G. Like I said, he was incredibly panicked during this entire interview, but the pinnacle of that panic came right here.
Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. Our candidates are being outraised 3-1. So tonight, please go to lindseygraham.com. I haven't asked all cycle 1 penny. And anything you give will be divided between those 3 Rust Belt states. Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio. We're leading in 2 of the 3. 53 senators is a much better deal for Trump than 51. We're getting creamed. We're getting outspent 4 and 5 and 6 and 8 and 10 to 1. The conservative world needs to step up and help these men and women who are running for the Senate to help President Trump. I'm going to give $600 tonight to lindseygraham.com. That money is going to be divided between 3 states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, where we're ahead in 2 of the 3.
There's a lot of truth, funny enough, and with Lindsey Graham just said there, but there's also a tiny lie that Republicans are the ones who are up in these Senate polls. No, in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and Wisconsin, we see Democrats up. But states like Montana and Texas and Florida are the ones that we need to continue to fight in and donate to. But Lindsey is right. Republicans are getting creamed in fundraising. Republicans are getting creamed in enthusiasm. Republicans are getting creamed in whose candidate is actually mentally fit. And as Donald Trump continues to deteriorate, as more Republicans move over to VP Harris, soft Republicans who see that Donald Trump is completely deranged and completely unfit, that also hurts the down ballot races for Republicans. And it's the reason why Lindsey Graham is freaking out, because he sees the future. He knows that Vice President Harris will be the likely winner of this election. And so he wants a Republican Senate, and he doesn't think he's going to get it. And it's the reason why he's so panicked. And it's the reason Democrats continue to invest in this Senate, because it is so important we keep it blue. And that's why President Obama was campaigning with Senator Gyo, soon to be Senator Gyo. I misspoke there. Congressman Ruben Gyo. And a clip that I want to check out right here.
So the question is, why didn't he actually solve the problem when he was in power? Why was the number of undocumented immigrants basically the same when he left office as when he took office? I'll tell you why. Because he didn't have a real plan, and he still doesn't. What he had is talking points. What he had is a concept of a plan. And by the way, it was a mean and ugly concept.
If we had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, we could pass sweeping legislation to protect Roe, to increase the minimum wage, to protect other fundamental freedoms. And that's what we are fighting for in this election. Of course, we need to elect VP Harris, but we need to make sure that she has the tools to get done and pass the agenda that would be so impactful. And that's why President Obama is all over the place, campaigning incredible, doing it in Arizona. Absolutely love to see it. But he brought up a great point later in that speech that I want to talk about. But first, it was also echoed by "I am politics girl." So before we get to the rest of that speech, let's hear from her.
This probably is starting to wear on him. He's not the same guy he was back in 2016 when he was in his late 60s. It's not like the presidency gets any easier from here on out.
Yes, but I'm tired, and I'm not running for president. I don't have to be the president after. I think we have to understand that, like, what Abby said is true. You know, he doesn't have enough battery to make it to election day. He doesn't currently have enough battery to make it through an entire speech. He stood on stage this week for 40 minutes listening to his own playlist, and we need to talk about how that's not normal. And I think we also need to talk about the fact that when are we going to stop pretending that this is the real candidate? We're just trying to get him across the finish line. And then to your point, we're going to put in President J.D. Vance, because there is no way that this man who can't make it through an entire speech, who keeps canceling things, is going to be the person that does 4 more years.
If the nightmare scenario happens and Donald Trump is elected, do we really not think that the billionaire tech bros who push so hard for J.D. Vance to be the VP, that the people who tried to put in place Project 2025 have all these plans for those surrounding Donald Trump, aren't going to try to push him out and make J.D. Vance president, someone who is arguably even more dangerous than Donald Trump? And someone, you know, at least with his faculties together to attack our democracy even more. It should be an idea that scares us deeply, and it's why we can have to. That's why we have to continue to push back and talk about Donald Trump's cognitive state, as President Obama did right here.
Have you seen him lately? I mean, he is out there, he's given 2.5 hour speeches, just word salads. You have no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. He held a town hall meeting where he just, let me explain, because I've done a lot of town hall meetings. The point of a town hall meeting is to take questions.
I think this is such an important closing message because it also makes the case of what VP Harris has been talking about through this entire election, about turning the page and moving on to a new generation as Donald Trump's brain continues to break down. It's not just that he's old, but he's stuck in the past. It's the message we've been talking about since the beginning of this campaign, that we are not going back. Especially we are not going back to the danger and division of Donald Trump that has only gotten worse with his derangement, with his cognitive decline. We don't just not want to go back to 2016. We don't want to go back to, 1816, 1916, where Donald Trump wants to push us with his arcane style of governing, with the ways he wants to restrict our freedom, and we need to make sure we are making that case every single day, and we're going to be doing that on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.